Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vagatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Apyayantu mama angani Vakpranaschakshuh Shrotramatho Balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani Nirteya Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mai Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Number 5 through 9 of the first chapter of Kena Upanishad. Yad vacha anabhyuditam yena vak abhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedum yaditum upasate. Yad manasana manute yenahur manomatam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yaditum upasate. Yat chakshushana pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yaditum upasate. Yat shrotrena na shrunoti na yena shrotra idagum sarvam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yaditum upasate. Yat pranena praniti yena pranah praniyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yaditum upasate. Okay. So, as we saw, I think very briefly in the last class, as an introduction to verse number 5, Adi Shankara, Adi Shankara, Guru, gives the background in the form of a doubt, a valid doubt and an important doubt. And that stemmed from the conclusion in verses number 1 through 4 that the Jivatma and the Paramatma have the same Lakshanam. There's really no difference between them. There are minor differences that are inconsequential, but for all essential purposes, they have the same. And so we read this very important second verse of the Advaita Makaranda by Swami Lakshmidhara Kavi, very often quoted. Ahamasmi sadabhami kadachit naham apriyaha brahmaiva aham atassiddham satchidananda lakshanam. So the satchidananda lakshanam of the Brahma, aham eva siddham, it is already established. There's nothing more that you need to do. What is the establishment? Ahamasmi. Ahamasmi means that I'm always there. This is an important thing. The problem we have is that I am always there is mixed up with my body-mind. And so I don't believe in that I am always there. Because I am certain that I have a beginning and I'm going to have an end. But that conclusion, false conclusion that I have a beginning and I will end, is not the truth about myself. It is a mixing up of myself with the not me. But the fact of the matter is, ahamasmi. You cannot deny that. You are, everybody is. Asti bhati priyam nama nama rupa ansha panchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam tato rupam tato dvayam jiva rupam. Something like that in Drigdrishya Viveka. Same thing. So asti bhami and sada bhami. I'm always alive. I'm always conscious. My nature is consciousness. Even when I am asleep, I am conscious of the fact that I am asleep. I'm seeing nothing. How else will I be able to confirm when I wake up? How did you sleep? I slept well. What did you see? I saw nothing. How can you say you saw nothing unless you saw something that was nothing? And even when you are, supposing you get hurt and you lose your visible consciousness, you can never lose your real consciousness. But the brain just stops. There also your consciousness is not disturbed, but the expression of the consciousness in the mind is disturbed. That's it. So sada bhami, there is no exception to that. Kadachit naham apriyaha. I'm never the source of displeasure to me. And if something is challenged and saying, how do people, they feel bad about themselves and sometimes they feel so bad they actually try to commit suicide. Well, that's because they don't feel bad about themselves, but they feel badly about what their mental state is. And the mental state is something that they are seeing. You see, it's very interesting to see that even in a suicide, the ever-loving nature of the self is expressed. One can say, how can you say that? Because in a suicide, that means that the person commits to the ending of his life or her life. Well, that's not true, because if in fact he was not aware of the fact that I am unhappy, that means my mind is unhappy, my state of thinking is unhappy. How is he going to do that? Because of sadabhami. I am different from the mind, and I don't like my mind state right now, and I don't see any chances of it being improved. I think I'm just going to take my life. I am unaccepting of the state of my mind. There also, there is viveka. And so anyway, so going back to it, by the end of the verse number 4, we saw that the lakshana of Paramatma is the same as the Jivatma. This was the conclusion. So now Adi Shankara, in order to test this, and he creates a doubt. And he answers it. This is the style of our teaching, that you create your own doubt. You actually have the toughest questions posing to yourself. And then you should be able to answer it. Then alone you can purify your own thinking. So here he creates a doubt, and the doubt is, wait a second. How can you say that the two are the same? And in fact, what I would say is that it is not just Advaita Makaranda, but all over the Shastra, In fact, Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, the identity between Jiva and Ishvara, is the central theme of Vedanta. So all the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, Ayamatma Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, are all proclaiming the identity between Jivatma and the Paramatma. So now a questioner comes up and he says, wait a second, there's something wrong here. Are you not a Vaidika that believes in going to the temple? So we said, yes. Should I go to the temple? Yes, of course. So I have a Ishta Devata, my own favorite Devata that I love to, whenever I have a problem, I rush to that Devata and try to get some blessings from that Devata. Isn't it true? So yes. Should I stop doing it? No, don't stop doing it. That's good. Should I stop going to all the places of worship, all the places to visit, like Tirthasthanam, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Somnath Temple, Dwarka, Tirupati, Vaishno Devi? Should I stop going to them? No, you should still go there. And what should I do when I go there? When you see a Vigraha, whatever the Vigraha is for them, Devi or Devata or something, then pray to them, right? Okay, then he says, if that's the case, don't you see my issue? The Devata that I am praying to, and I'm traveling to rush to go to see their darshanam, is different from me. Very obvious. I mean, if the Devata and Ishvara is the same as me, then I would be doing Namastakara to myself like this. Namaste me, Namaste me, Namaste me. I don't do something like that, stupid thing. I always do Namaste to my 10 fingers are always bound outwards. I do Namaste, as you also do. And so really that means that the Devata and Ishvara is different from you. How do you explain that? So how come? So Shankara says, Badham. Good. I'm glad you asked that question. And so really speaking, if you are interested in limited results, if you want to maintain your identity of a human being, and with that identity, if you wanted to maximize your results, then by all means do that. We are saying absolutely the same thing. There's no better way. You should really pray. And in fact, the more you pray, the better off your future will be. We saw this very briefly in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that really for those out of the 4 people, the middle 2, which are the Karminaha and the Upasakas, relatively go to Swargaloka and then to Brahmaloka. In the case of the Karminaha, the Karmakandi means the ones who really are ritualistic. They don't really have any love yet for Ishvara per se, but they are very punctual in going to temple and going to the various events during the year. They are very disciplined and so on. They will go to Swargaloka, no doubt about it. It will be an improvement over what we have here. And if you can supplement that with doing upasana, means that you have a mental worship which is deeper, more advanced, more mature than the karma kanda, then you will actually go to the superior path, Uttarayana. The other ones will go through the Dakshinayana. We saw in the Bhagavad Gita, which is a summary of what has been described in great detail in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad and other Upanishads. And so, so if you are a if you have an if you want to maintain the identity of a human being as a jiva, but then you want to maximize your return going forward, then by all means do that. But may I say, there is even a better way. And that is Nishkama Karma. Nishkama Karma means you don't have any immediate results that you want. You're not going after some what we call Kamya Karma. Kamya Karma means one which is desire prompted, various kinds of desires. From making more money, you can go to the temple and say, may I please get promotion because my bosses are not giving me promotion. I think I deserve it. Can you nudge the bosses somehow or the other to give me my due promotion? Or that if my daughter or my son wants to go to MIT or Harvard or to Stanford or Hewlett or on University of California, Berkeley or Caltech, can you please help them? So this is what is called Kamya Karma. Here Swami Maheshananji made a very good point. I really enjoyed reading that in his commentary on Rudram, which I really am getting ready to revive my teaching of Rudram. I'm also getting a lot more out of it than I did even last time. And so I would like to share all those insights that I have learned. Anyway, that's a separate matter. I don't know when that will happen. But he was saying, it was very beautifully explained. He says, the obtaining of results from Kamya Karma, you will actually get the results if your prayers are sincere and persistent, and if there is no hanging Papa Karma, which is really putting obstacles in the way, then it is very, very likely that whatever you are asking for, you will get. But, and this is a big but, Swami Maheshananji says, let me just say this. The results of Kamya Karma may give you some relief and pleasure, but they do not give you lasting happiness. Sukham na apnoti. You certainly have some temporary relief, you feel good about it, and you may have some longer term relief also, supposing your son or daughter is able to get admission in a very difficult school, then their life hopefully would be better, not necessarily, but hopefully would be better. And so you will be able to do that. But Kamya Karma does not give you lasting happiness. For that, you have to turn towards Ishvara and continue to do your Nitya Naimittika Karma, and with the blessings of Ishvara, when he is pleased, then you will get a chance to do lasting happiness, that we will discuss how later on some other time. But Kamya Karma doesn't. So here Adi Shankara says, listen, I know your doubt that everybody is going to temple and they're doing this, that or the other, and that can only happen if the person you are praying to is different than you. We know that. But please see that the conditions when this happens is when you are looking for relative happiness, limited happiness. Why? Because one of the things is that the very starting point is that of a limited person. So this is what Ishvara Arpanam means. Ishwarpanam and Nishkama Karma and so on, all of this have to be understood. There's a lot behind all this. What does it really mean? So we'll discuss that as the right occasion occurs. I have to go on to the main topic here. But where that means is that you are willing to give up your jivatva. You're not hanging on to it and say, this is me. You are willing to even give that up. And just say, Ishvara, whatever you want me to do, I don't care. You've already given me a life and I am busy with it. And so let me just do the arpanam. Let me give you all the sacrifices. You take care of me. Yoga Kshema Vahamiyaham in Bhagavad Gita. He says, if you give your life to me, I will row your life's boat. And the issue is we don't believe that. He said, no. This is a huge topic. Swami Meshananji topic. He takes it up wonderfully. In great detail sometimes we will do it. He says that we always hold back. We are not sincere. Because we always feel, what if there is no Ishvara? If there is no, then I'm also not trying. Ishvara is there's not there. Now I'm sunk. In fact, a big part of this whole issue is the fact that I think I talked about this in one of the previous classes. I don't know if it was this class a week ago or one of the other two classes. One of the big issues Swami Meshananji says is that we give lip service to following the truth. I think I mentioned this, so I'll just very briefly mention it again and then go on. Like, for example, you say, Satyam eva jayate. Truth alone wins. This is the fundamental, essential part of Vedanta. So much so that the national slogan of India is Satyam eva jayate. India is now so far away from it. There is probably more corruption in India than in most other countries. Although we are improving, thanks to Modi ji. But anyway, we're not following that. But at least we have an aim. And so, Satyam eva jayate. So we ask somebody, especially those of us who are following Vedanta, do you believe in Satyam eva jayate? Oh, yes. We believe in Satyam eva jayate. That means that the truth alone wins. Okay. Then Swamiji says, I see this, people will tell me, but Swamiji, what happens is that I cannot make my living by telling the truth. I have to lie. And Swamiji says, now here's the situation. Either you say the Vedas is correct, or you say the Vedas doesn't know what it's all about. It is some kind of a theoretical thing. They have never really lived a real life. I have to live a real life, and it doesn't work. If I have to tell truth, then I would be in worse shape than I am now. So he says this is insulting the very intelligence of the Vedas. Similarly, to give up my understanding of that I am the one who is responsible for my life, I have to do everything. Isn't Ishvara Sarvashaktiman, I ask him? Haven't you seen that he is all powerful and he can really help? And yes, I believe in that. But then you know what? I have to do it too. That means there is a conflict there also. You don't think that the Ishvara is capable of really helping me? I have to do it my own. Once in a while, if I need some help, then I can go to him. But most of the time, I'm doing it on my own. This is not Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. Then your finishing of kartritvam and bhoktritvam, the doership and the enjoyership, the sense of responsibility, the sense of samsara will never go. At least you need to take some initial steps to do so. That's what explains by Swami Maheshananji. So anyway, nishkama karma, if you want to really go for unlimited gain, and we really are interested in unlimited gain only. We don't call it unlimited gain and so on. But the fact of the matter is, I cannot compromise with any kind of a problem that comes to me. Don't like it. And I wish it would go away. I don't know how to make it go away, but if the Shastra says, yes, I can help you have it go away. Really? How? Shastra says, okay, follow this. Follow these things. This is the sadhana. Are you ready for it? So I say, sure. I'm ready for it. It's easy to say, I'm ready for it. We're not. So Nishkama Karma, he says, if you really want unlimited results, then you have to know that unlimited results is the unlimited status. Forget about results. The status of unlimitedness, moksha, anantam, satyam jnanam anantam. So asti bhati atyantika nivritti. This kind of an infinity, which is there in Ishvara, is really yours also if you allow yourself to become, if you allow Ishvara to take over your life. It's possible. Possible. And if you are brave enough to do it, if you are wise enough to do it, then take it up. So Shankara concludes in answering this objection by the people that why do I have to go to the temple and so on and so forth, to say that going to the temple and all these tirthasthanams and so on is just an intermediate step. It is exactly like if you are learning to swim, it is important for you to jump into the pool and start swimming even though you don't know how to swim. You have to make all those physical efforts to do it. Test yourself. Am I comfortable? No, not yet. So I better keep on doing so. And learn how to breathe with your mouth on the one side, take breaths and so on and so forth. And if you keep on doing it, are you swimming yet? No, I'm not swimming yet. But am I getting close to it? Yes, I'm on the right way. So going to the temple and so on and so forth is like that. Practice doing it, because what will happen is, and then if you go to the temple, then do not expect permanent results. In fact, if you going to the temple means that's just an upalakshana, that's just one example of it. But whenever you do something like bhajans, you have chanting sessions, you have study, and you go to a pilgrimage, or you go to a famous temple and so on and so forth, and while you are there, see the sukham which is yours. How it gives you sukham. So here Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, if you really analyze, we grow up with the feeling that if I can do the first 10 things of a long list, I will be very happy. So really you just want to do 10 things? Yes. 10 important things if I'm able to do. I have this long list of 25 things, but if I can just do 10 or 15 of them, I would be happy. So then what are you going to do? I'm attempting to do so. Swamiji used to say, has that list ever diminished? Have you ever thought of it? Wake up in the morning and the first thing that occurs to you is, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And then you keep writing notes. We all do, I do. You have to do, here are the things that I have to do. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, better. And then you arrange the priorities and so on and so forth. Swami Dayananji was so funny. He was saying one time, he says, can I define procrastination for you? He says, here is what procrastination is. So procrastination is a willful postponing of important projects. So my laziness has many forms. One of them is that I don't even make a list. Don't even make a list. I keep forgetting things. Oops, I forgot to do this. Oops, I forgot to do that. The next good thing from there is you make a list. You make a list and you actually have maybe two sections. One is must do and the other one is get to this also. So you actually look at the list every day and he says, oh, okay. Well, it turns out that you do, this is what procrastination is, Swamiji used to say. You end up doing the non-essential things because they're easier. And the very important things because they're important, because anything which is important means that it has to require some more effort, more time and so on. And then you keep postponing it. Oh, that I will do it. Of course I will do it, but not at this moment. I've got some important things to do. I have to return some phone calls. I've got to do this, that, or the other. Or later on things, I will do it. You kindly take another look at it after a month. This is what Swamiji said was procrastination. And so really speaking, we don't get to. So Vedanta says if you want the sadhana for achieving what unlimitedness, then please follow these. Don't neglect it. So so here then Adi Shankara answers the doubt of this person who says that I'm confused. You're saying I'm the same as Ishvara, and yet you're asking me to pray to Ishvara that is different from me. I don't get it. So in summary, Adi Shankara says, no, I'm not he, but Shastra is not confusing you. It is saying there is an intermediate stage where you, when you go to the temple, then look at the bhavam, the sukham that you get, even though it is for a short time, but see how it is possible. So here's the thing I wanted to make sure that I talk. I didn't finish that thought. Swami Dayananji used to say that you have a list of 30 people, 25 lists, 25 items on the list, and you are doing the first 10, 15. Okay. Your idea is that unless I finish all of these, I'm not going to be happy. This is our conviction, that I'm burdened by having all these undone things, and I will only when I get to it and successfully implement them, then I'll be happy. This is far from the truth. And how? Because when you go to the temple and you sit there in the presence of your Ishtadevata and you're chanting with others and so on and so forth, have you accomplished any of those things? Have you accomplished all the 15 things? Even some of them? They are left hanging still, but you are happy. Isn't there something funny here? please examine that you don't need to wait until you finish everything before you are happy. So going to the temple is very useful because it gives you a taste of your own sukham without doing anything. Same thing is true for going to sleep. How come you are so happy you haven't finished any of the things that you wanted to do? And Swami Dayananji used to say that then what he would do, he was such a funny person, Swamiji. His sense of humor, his timing and his jokes were just absolutely marvelous. In fact, we all used to tell him very openly, Swamiji, if at some point in time the students get tired of you and you are not able to get enough people to come, please go to Las Vegas and become a showman as a humorist. You'll be very successful. Swamiji used to laugh at that. Swamiji used to say he would have a couple of jokes at this point when he's making this point about going to the temple and being happy, going to sleep and being happy. Then he would tell a complete joke and everybody will be laughed. He says, see, you can be happy just by laughing at my joke. What have you done? You haven't finished any of the points yet. So this is an intermediate step, but it's not the final step because the jokes only last for a few seconds. Temple going lasts only about an hour. Sleep only lasts for like 5 or 6 hours. You still have other things to do and you haven't finished it. So all it is a taste. Then what you need to do is to understand the message of Vedanta by doing Shravanam and Mananam. Because right now you're unwilling to take a look at yourself as you are. You are in effect searching all over, just like I go back to that example that's prompted this whole thing about the credit card. Because now you are prepared to look for everywhere. You're making a list of all the places that you went yesterday. You're still not certain whether it'll be there or not. Imagine the uncertainty. This is exactly what our life is all about. Not sure where my happiness is going to come from. And it happens to come from this place, and then something else happens. Then I turn in this direction, something else happens. But what Vedanta does is to pause, says, listen, I think it is very close to you. You're looking at wrong places. So just like I had the revelation that, my gosh, I was here last night. Similarly, there is a revelation that, and I use the credit card, so this is bound to be here. Similarly, through this teaching, there is a revelation that you're looking at the wrong spot. Ishvara is you, it is in you, it is with you. In fact, well, as a prelude to the rest of the verses, one interesting thing that Swami Maheshananji had pointed out very nicely is that for the Parameshwara, for the Almighty, all-knowing creator of ourselves, there are two aspects of Parameshwara. One is, I dedicate myself for learning the Ishvara Bhava. The other one is, I dedicate myself to understanding that aspect of Parameshwara which is Paramatma Bhava. So one is Ishvara Bhava and the other one is Paramatma Bhava. So Ishvara Bhava is the body of Ishvara. So let me stay with this distinction for a little while just to make a point. Ishvara Bhava is the body of Ishvara called Upadana Karanam in Sanskritam. Upadana Karanam. In fact, it is called Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Vivarta Upadana Karanam means one which remains unchanged even though there are changes in it. Like a gold and the ornaments. The gold is called the Vivarta Upadana Karanam of the ornaments. You know this by now. Paramatma Bhava is the Nimitta Karanam. Nimitta Karanam means the intelligence behind the creation. Paramatma Bhava, Paramatma is the Nimitta Karanam, Parameshwara is the Upadana Karanam. And both are in the same person. Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanatvat, Parameshwara Giyate. Why is it the same in one? Because Parameshwara is infinite. There cannot be a separation, as we have discussed it in, I think in the Brahma Sutra class, that it is okay for a spider as an exception. Certainly not in all the other cases, like a maker of a pot maker and a pot are different from each other because they are limited. But if you're unlimited, you have to be the same, both. Otherwise, there will be Dvaitam. You see that? It's an important point. For Advaita to be established, there cannot be a difference between Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam. And it's possible to be like that, like in a dream or in the spider's case. So that's the case. Paramatma Bhavam is the Nimitta Karanam and Ishvara Bhavam is the Avarana Karanam, Upadana Karanam, Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Another way to look at that, as we have been seeing, is that the Ishvara Bhavam is Tatastha Lakshana. Paramatma Bhavam is Swarupa Lakshana. So Lakshanam, which is relative, and the other one is the very Swarupa of it. Swami Mahisharanji pointed this out very beautifully. He says, both the Ishvara Bhavam and Paramatma Bhavam is aparoksha, non-different from me. As Ishvara Bhavam, it is pratyaksha aparokshata, as my experience. The whole world is nothing but my experience. My experience, I'm there. My experience cannot be there unless I am there. I'm very much participating in it. This is what is called pratyaksha aparokshata. Aparokshata means one which is immediate, very close, which is not paroksha. My experiences are not paroksha. Every minute I have experiences. They're all mine. This is what is called pratyaksha aparokshata. Whereas the Paramatma Kalam is not pratyaksha aparokshata, it is purely aparokshata. This is a little difficult to understand and require more time. So I'm just throwing that at you. I apologize. Not because each one of these really require a fair amount of explanation and so on. So I'm not giving enough time to all this, but I'm just giving you a taste of what the advanced study would mean. So both Paramatma Bhavan and Parameshwara Bhavam are aparoksha alone. Whole life is nothing but in the form of an experience. But in the case of Parameshwara Bhavam, it is pratyaksha aparokshata. Whereas in the case of Paramatma Bhavam, it is pure aparokshata. It is not manifested. The self is never manifested. But the manifestation actually tells me my aparokshata. And this is what the subject of Kena Upanishad is. You see this? See this clearly. So we are going to culminate this on the 4th verse of the 2nd chapter, which says, don't you see that all of your experiences are due to your own self? Don't you see that all of the manifestations in the appliances, because I have a very sophisticated set of appliances. My eyes are an appliance. My ears are an appliance. My nose is an appliance. My mouth is an appliance. My brain is an appliance. My skin is an appliance. My speech is an appliance. My mind is an appliance. In each of these appliances, they are triggered by the electricity of consciousness. Don't we see this? So what this means is that even though I never see electricity, it is far too subtle for me to see. But I can see the presence of electricity just from its effects. This is the central point of this whole Kena Upanishad. Unmistakable. And the only reason I don't see it is because my mind is crazy. It's made me a duffer. I will say, really? It's like telling, all the appliances there is electricity, and says, no, I don't believe it. Where is the electricity? For heaven's sake. Exactly the same situation is there. I'll say, I don't know where Atma is. It's just like saying it's right around here. Can't you see it? I'll say, no, I don't see it. Of course you don't see it. It's not a seeable object. But don't you see the effect of it? This is the whole Kena Upanishad. This is the central theme of Kena Upanishad. And it will be culminating in the verse number 4, which we will, I think, do next time. Pratibodha viditam matam. And a very important and a very interesting thing which we can also bring in at this point as another example is what is given in the Madhu Brahmana in Chandogya and also in Brihadaranyaka. Madhu Brahmana. Very important, very beautiful example of this. Similar to this, I'll just add this to this explanation. So what Madhuban Brahmana says is that you have, you just look at the way the bee picks out the honey from the various types of flowers. I see this so beautifully in the garden. I used to be scared of the bees at one time, thinking, no, they might bite me. I have a tulsi plant, I have some French lavender. They love French lavender. I have roses. And they fight with me and say, what are you doing here? Allow me to just pick out the honey from them. And now I coexist with them. They've never bitten me, so why should I be afraid of them? Very beautiful. I can't get my grandchildren to come there. They'll just roil away, and I don't blame them. But in my old age wisdom, I'm coexisting nicely with them, and I observe their work. And so what they do, what Shastra says they do, is that they go to different flowers and pick out the madhu from there. And at that point, the madhu has a lot of flavor of the particular flower. If it's a sunflower, then it's a sunflower madhu. If it's a rose flower, then it's a rose flower madhu. And I bet at that point they have some differences in the way they taste and the aroma and so on. But then you know what they do? They go back to the central place and deposit their honey. All of them, hundreds of bees. And when they all get mixed up, you find that there is no differences. There's no differences, it is all one madhu. There are some differences, like I've seen them in farmers market where somebody will say, this has a taste of these have. So this is not a perfect example. But Shastra says, just like you have a conglomeration of different madhus that gets into a single madhu, here we have the same thing. Here, at least, this is not a perfect example, because a single madhu is the result of small droplets that are making this up. But in our case, it is just the opposite. How is this the opposite? Because we have various experiences, what called vritti jnanam. Vritti jnanam. Vritti jnanam means a consciousness, awareness, which has a form to it. So, for example, when I see something like a table, then I have table consciousness. If I'm hearing a word through my ears, I have word consciousness. If I touch something, touch a book, then I have touch consciousness. But in all of these, touch, form, sound, taste, there is nothing but common thing is consciousness, consciousness, consciousness. So at this point in time, all that is happening is that I am subdividing and I'm putting all my attention in the vritti jnana. It's exactly like saying that I am very involved in the various appliances. I think it's a more powerful example than that of a ornament and gold, because the appliances are all very different from each other. At least in the case of golden ornaments, they're all very visibly there in the gold. So they look like not that different from each other, even though their shapes are different and utility is different, yes. But in the case of appliances, I think it's a beautiful example of the appliances. what you find is that there are starkly different appliances. And the appliances come in so many different types and flavors. Like, for example, when somebody says something to me, and whether it is agreeable to me or not, that is also an appliance. And my getting upset about it is also as a result of the appliance. So I'm very busy. I'm very busy with different kind of appliances, different software. Who am I talking to? I hope they're nice to me. I hope there's no problem. Is this a friend or a foe? Is this something I like or I don't like? All these kinds of things. I'm so busy in the various segmentation of my consciousness that I never get a chance to really ponder over the fact that, my God, they are nothing but my own consciousness. Never occurs to me. And even if I'm told that, I sort of say, well, I don't know. Funny situation. And the more I'm taught that, don't you see, you're worried about being the very unchanging space. You're getting unnecessarily upset about small space and big space and intermediate space. Your space. I don't say that you don't think about room spaces and so on, but enjoy it. Knowing that you are the space. Swami Maheshwarji gave a very beautiful example of this. He said, what happens is that, excuse me for a second. He says that if you look at the seedlings of a plant and how they come about. So you sow something in the ground and you fertilize it and you give water to it, and then pretty soon you get a plant, and the plant then grows and throws out seedlings. And so this is what happens in your garden when you have a lot of stuff that you don't like, all kinds of thorns and so on and so forth, because these thorny plants give out more seeds and they replicate all over. And so there is a process where the seed is a very powerful thing. Just in a small space, you have the ability to germinate and create a huge tree. And then this whole process keeps on growing. And Swami Maheshananji says that our life in that manner is like that. Because from our previous birth, we took a birth as a small baby, innocent little baby, and just doesn't have any likes and dislikes, and just has, whatever the mom and dad can give me, I'm happy with it. And they cry if I'm hungry, but that's about it. Then the full manifestation of their previous karmas comes about. The vasanas, they develop a personality, and they develop likes and dislikes, desires, and desire to do something. And then they study, and then they become scholars, and they marry, and they have children, and then they have, all along the way they have issues with life problems, and they're busy solving the problems, and they're interacting with them, all because of this vasana and karma and this whole cycle. It's like a very sophisticated seedling that becomes a tree and gives rise to other seeds. And this whole process is inescapable. It just continues on and so on. But Swamiji says, but suppose you were to roast the seedlings. Just in a small pan, you heat it up and you roast the seedlings. Don't burn them completely, just roast it. And you take it out. Now you have a completely different thing. You don't have the seedling that gives rise to lots of other problems. It is a very simple, looks tasty, it is still the same, but it doesn't have that ability to sprout lots of other manifestations and so on and so forth. So similarly, Swamiji says that really speaking, a human being that unchecked, because I am so involved in all of these appliances, all these vritti jnanams, different kind of vrittis and so on. I'm so busy with it and so on. And then I get into more problems, more involvement. And I don't know where to stop. And the only time I stop is when I am at the end of my life. And then that also is just a temporary one. Then I'm born again, same thing all over again. But if through the jnanam, through the very knowledge, I roast my seeds. Roast my seeds in the sense that my jivatvam is not capable of the vasanas and karmas and karma phalas and so on and so forth, then I am still visible as a human being. But I am a completely different person. I am not affected by things. And I am also a friend to others. I am kind to others. I don't have this growth of unconnected and uncontrollable feelings about others and so on. All that is gone. And just like a roasted seed is harmless and makes very pleasant, similarly a jivan mukta, or just trying to be that, it becomes a very, very, very pleasant personality. Doesn't mean that you don't have interactions. You still have families, you still have friends and so on. But your expectations, your desires, your affects, your problems, your sense of limitation and so on is all gone. So this is what the nishkama karma, and this is what this is what Ishvara's anugraha and sharanagati, giving yourself up to the larger things and so on, can do. It's not as though you are nothing is going to be. You will continue to be. You may not accomplish what you wanted to do before, but it's okay. It doesn't matter anymore. So that's what happens in the case of a person who is not worried about the vritti jnanam, but he enjoys the pure jnanam, the beauty of the pure sakshitvam. That has to be discovered. Just like you have to go to a temple to see Sukham, and you are just careful. You go to the temple, just see that you are a Sukhi, you are a happy person without doing anything. Similarly, in a much larger scale, if you were to have the experience of just being yourself as a jnanam, satyam jnanam anantam, and you find I'm okay, my gosh, I don't need to do things. I've been running around chasing the various appliances. I'm the very electricity. I never knew that. It didn't dawn on me how powerful I am, that I'm the very basis of everything. I'm the very basis of Ananda. This needs to be tested and tasted. No one can just tell you this. It is not a matter of reading and so on and so forth. You have to discover it for yourself. Give yourself a chance. This is the blessing of Ishvara. And so this we will continue on with verses number 5. I was hoping to finish 5 to 9, but that's fine. It's any relevant material which is important for unfolding these truths and so on. It would be fine. It's okay. And that's really the nature of this particular class. We're just going to, wherever it takes us, we'll just go in that direction. So, now what we can do, if you want, very quickly, in fact, then we don't even have to finish this. So, in verses number 5 through 9, it just points out that the vritti jnanams are due to the jnanams. See, is these the electricity? And so, in answer to this doubt by this person raised about how come that I'm the same as Ishvara if I have to pray and so on, he says you don't have to pray. If you want to pray for a while, this is okay. This is good as an intermediate step as we went through. But ultimately, you have to learn to swim. If you are saying, why am I even trying to swim? No, you have to try to swim. But the goal is that after a while, you don't have to attempt to swim. It happens automatically. So here's what this is. Yad vacha anabhyutitam yena vak abhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi na idam yadi idam upasate. He says that if you want to find Brahman, Brahman means the very lakshana of Ishvara, lakshana of Paramatma. And if you want to do that, then please see that even though the vak, even though the sentences cannot reveal it, but the one which is behind the talking of the sentences is Brahman. You cannot have talking without Brahman, without the Atma, without the consciousness. Please see this. And the same thing is true for everything else. Everything. Yan manasana manute. You cannot have the mind capable of all of the various things that it does unless there is consciousness. You cannot have an eye which can see. Yes, yat chakshusha pashyati. You cannot see the eyes. But the one which is behind seeing the eyes. Because the eye doesn't see, as we saw in some of the other classes. So, for example, supposing you go to some place where a person has just died a few seconds ago, and the eyes are still open, and they are not injured. They are still seeing things, but they are not seeing anything. There is no consciousness. So what sees is the consciousness, not the eye. The eye is nothing but an instrument, an appliance. It is the electricity behind. So he says, please see this. This is the way to see Brahman. Now, at this point, not doing an upasana. If you want to do an upasana, please go ahead. I don't have anything against it. But don't have this fundamental doubt that I thought Ishvara is away from me and I'll have to do a lot of things in order to reach it. It is really much closer than you think. Your credit card is not lost. It is around here. In fact, it is you in this particular example. So, yad chakshusha pashyati, shatshotrena shrunoti, etc. The pranena praniti. So, I think that with those, the first section is now over. And in the next class, we will begin the second section, which is also very interesting. And I have a lot of personal recollection of when I studied it. I had the same kind of doubts, and how this slowly got dissipated through an understanding and study and so on and so forth. So we will go over that in more detail next week. So with that, I close the class. Om Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. And the eyes are still opening, are open, and they are not injured. Subhash Jain, I haven't seen you for quite a while. Welcome back. Thank you all for your comments. I'm very happy that you saw the examples as being useful. Good. I'll wait for any questions that you may have for a while and before we sign off. But so good to see you all. Sam, I got your email. Thank you so much. And I think the sentiments you expressed there are right on, totally. So, absolutely agree with you. Okay, I don't see any follow-up questions. So with that, I take your leave, and we will hopefully see you next week all.